Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone wherever you are. My name is Ayanal Sarafanta, Regional Monitoring and Evaluation Officer of the Nile Basin Discourse. The Nile Basin Discourse is a regional network of civil society organizations with over 600 members that operates across 10 Nile Basin countries, with its headquarters or secretariat located in Entebbe, Uganda, and the national chapters in all the 10 countries. The topic of my presentation today is empowering women and youth as a means for creating sustainable, climate-resilient future. Presentation outlines, I will quickly follow the outlines indicated here: introduction, methodological approach, project and its impact, lessons learned, conclusion, or way forward. In the introductory part, I will try to specify the context. We are in sub-Saharan Africa, where environmental pressures are very acute, such as periods of water shortage and flooding become more frequent, pollution of ecosystems and degradation of natural resources threatening livelihoods and the prospects for future generations. Climate change, urbanization, and migration without sustainable infrastructure and adequate adaptation of food production, processing, and consumption would further drive the ongoing decline downwards. So the transition to a more sustainable, fair, and equal path for societies requires leadership that is able to appreciate the natural, social, and political dimensions of all these problems. Poor water management and lack of wash facilities affect women and girls disproportionately, and we all know this. Cognizant of this fact, NBD partnered with IH Delft and secured funding from Coca-Cola Foundation and designed a project on women and water for change in communities. The aim was to empower women and youth in rural communities in Tanzania and Uganda. So the project was implemented in Mara Mora catchment, Tanzania, and Mabamba Bay in Uganda, both of which are found within the Lake Victoria Basin. Poor women and jobless youth were selected from rural villages and provided with tailored trainings to enable their skills required to take on a leadership role in decision regarding water use, natural resource management, and public health, with the ultimate purpose of making them climate change resilience champions. In terms of methodological approach, the project deployed multiple methodologies, a combination of research approach, which was used to stimulate and reflect on ways to support women and youth who aspire to be leaders, entrepreneurs, and agents of change. The project also used educational program methodology, which provided tailor-made training for women and youth leaders within the local community structures, like water user associations, schools, etc., on key and relevant topics. The project also used a communication skill development approach, particularly to build the confidence of youth and women so that they would be effectively engaged in decision-making processes. We also used expert presentation tools combined with practical demonstration skills on various issues: water, environment, climate interactions, entrepreneurship, and creation of green jobs, And these were done by professionals and fellow innovators from different backgrounds. We also used exhibitions and testimonies of women and youth champions through forum theater. All these were used to enhance knowledge and skills of the trainees. We also used method of community caravan learning, which is a tool used to facilitate exchange learning visits within communities, assisted by a facilitator, of course. And this was home-to-home learning tool, which was aimed to identify local champions as agents of change and to review key gaps and how the gaps or the groups can assist to fill the identified gaps. In terms of the project impacts, I would talk on two levels: impacts on the beneficiaries and impacts on the decision makers. With regard to impacts on beneficiaries, the findings of the project monitoring exercise, which was done using semi-structured questionnaire method, showed that about 83.3% of the trainees gained knowledge or skills on entrepreneurship in the green field, with 66.7% of them already exercising the skills they gained. So the trainees confirmed that they created green jobs, they embarked on vegetable gardening, like planting cabbage, spinach, and pumpkins for their own home consumption and for the local markets. They generally reported better outcome of the training on their knowledge and skills, a positive impact of the training on the creation of green jobs, and they urged the need to continue the training in an expanded manner. With regard to impacts on decision makers, we had communications to the local leaders in both countries. So the local leadership agreed to be part of the project innovation in seeking solutions for challenges facing women and youth. In Uganda, for instance, there was a huge turnout of the local leadership in the meetings organized by women group, which enabled the women group to share the challenges they faced during implementation of the activities. The leadership promised that they would provide support to the women and youth, especially in enforcing laws on sanitation. Similarly, in Tanzania, the Lake Victoria Basin Water Board showed interest in working with civil society organizations in dealing with challenges facing women and youth in the Mara-Mora catchment, promising inclusion of more CSO representatives in the Mara-Mora Catchment Forum, which is an independent, loose coalition of all catchment residents and stakeholders who are represented by Water Users Association and accountable only to the local governors. With regard to lessons learning, it was identified that empowerment is widely reduced to income generation for women and youth, but additional income doesn't automatically improve the status of women and youth. So empowerment projects should focus on creating agency and giving space to women and youth to exercise that space. So building a solid base for skill development is very key. Many of trainings and capacity building activities have little long-term impact. Project support activities too often collapse as soon as external support is finished. Reason is not lack of will or motivation, but lack of fundamental cognitive abilities necessary to benefit from the training. So we need to focus on something that brings fundamental change in the cognitive abilities of the trainees. Effective capacity development for women entrepreneurs has to assess and address skills in a more comprehensive manner, not in a piecemeal on skills. The caravan is the best way to transform communities, as it is a practical mindset changing learning exercise for those who participated in it. So, for any program that is intending to change communities fundamentally, it should be centered on mindset change activities. In the way of conclusion or way forward, I would say the following. There is a need to involve all the governance and administrative structures at all levels of the local council and other stakeholders which were not included in this pilot project, like schools, army barracks, tourism investors, and expand the experience into communities in and around Lake Victoria Basin, including Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. There is also need to organize youth and women showcase weekend, weekday events, such as Women's Day, Youth Day, Environmental Day, etc. This would enable communities to showcase what they have learned and practice it and share experience, so that this would enable communities to enhance their capacities and better plan for their future. There is also need to have household clustering technique, which would help a set of householders learn from each other, account to each other, and monitor each other through positive sanctions. So clustering should be done probably into 3 levels. The one is for those that are excelling in wash facilities, waste management, environmental management, and creation of green jobs, and those at the intermediary level and those at the beginner level, so that they learn from each other, account to each other, and sanction to each other. There is need to introduce economic component or the income generation activities into the group activities that is informed by best practices proved to work for communities elsewhere as far as economic empowerment is concerned. There is need to improve tree planting, provide sufficient lands, and organize communities into environmental clubs and train them in environmental management, starting from demonstration of tree planting, nursery bed formations, etc. There is also need to innovate on ecotourism. Mavamba Bay is an internationally recognized Ramsar site, rich in biodiversity. There is already preliminary infrastructure. There is already established community system, boat owners, tour guides, etc. But all need to be improved to meet international standards. So avenues of doing a very practical, participatory, and community-led ecotourism project needs to be explored. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.